Algebra 2, Function Operations and Composition, Concept 21, Teacher Talk. So let's start by looking at these two given functions. F of x equals x minus 5 and g of x equals x minus 1. These are both linear functions. They both have a domain of all real numbers. That means you can plug in any real number for x and you will get a real number for f of x. So let's just make note of their domains. The directions say, it says perform each of the following operations and then determine the domain of the result. So our first problem says to take f plus g of x. That's how you read that. So that means you take what the f of x function is, which is x minus 5, and you add the g of x function, which is x minus 1. You'll combine like terms, and your final new function is 2x minus 6. So the two original functions both have a domain of all real numbers, so we need to have at least a domain of that. And then our resulting function is a linear function, which just has a domain of all real numbers. So that's our final domain. Now we're going to divide these functions. So you simply take f of x and put it over g of x. There's no simplifying to do, but we do have a domain restriction. Because in the denominator we have the expression x minus 1, we do not want x to equal 1 because that would give us a 0 in the denominator. So we'll say our domain is x cannot equal 1. Now we have two new functions, another f of x and g of x. So this f of x, 5x plus 6, is a linear function, so that's our domain's all real numbers. And then our second function is a quadratic. It also has a domain of all real numbers. You can plug in any real number for x and then get a real number out. So now these directions say find the composition of the functions with the given value. So you read A as f of g of x. So that means that you're going to take the g of x function, 2x squared minus 1, and plug it into the f of x function. Then you'll just do the math to simplify. So we'll distribute by 5 and then combine our like terms. Our final answer will be 10x squared plus 1. That's a quadratic function, and it has a domain of all real numbers. Now B, you read that as g of f of x, so that means you'll take the f of x function, 5x plus 6, and plug it into the g of x function for x. The first thing we'll do is square 5x plus 6, which will give us 25x squared plus 30x plus 36. And actually, when I went back and looked at that, I realized when I square 5x plus 6, I'll actually get 60x, and then I need to take that times 2. So our final function answer will be the quadratic 50x squared plus 120x plus 71, and our domain will be all real numbers. So now C, we read this as f of g of negative 1. So that means we'll start by plugging negative 1 into the function of g of x, so 2 times negative 1 squared minus 1. So that will just give us f of 1. Now we take that value and plug it in to the f function, and our result will be 11. Because we were given a domain of negative 1, we do not have to determine the domain of this. And that concludes our teacher talk for Concept 21.